Hello and welcome. And in today's video, we are going to see one more game of Magnus Carlsen. The game was played in the World Championship Blitz in Dubai in 2014. Already, Magnus Carlsen was one of the strongest player in the world with a stratospheric FIDE rating of 2881. In this game, he's playing black against Grandmaster Sergei Yudin, who is rated 2546. So let us see how the game starts. Yudin starts with e4, e5, and f3 and c6, bishop c4, the Gyoko piano, bishop c5, and d3, the slow systems. And these systems are very popular nowadays. The white takes it slowly. The idea is to play c3 and then maybe b4 or d4, depending on the opponent's responses, gaining space in the queen side or in the center. And f6 and dd2 and d6. c3 and castles, and Carlsen now plays bishop e6. Now this is a very interesting move. Now the way I explain it to my students, so let us say this is the only white piece which is looking, if we can use that word, at the black's position. Okay, so this is a piece which is looking at the black's position and has the potential in the future to create some trouble on the traditionally weak f7 square. So lot of times I see the rooks coming over here, and then there's an attack on f7 square. Carlsen plays bishop e6, a very thematic move, a very instructive move, and a very common move in this position. So white's only piece, which is the most active piece, which is looking at the black's position, is challenged immediately. Bishop e6. Yudin retreats to bishop b3. Carlsen plays bishop into b3, not allowing the bishop to retreat. Okay, so this is also a thing which sometimes is useful to remember. So let us say black plays h6 and bishop c2. Okay, so for example, rook e8 and b3 and a6. So for example, this is something you have to be aware of in these positions. The move d4 actually wins a piece, because when black captures, and white can just push through with d5, and both the pieces on c6 and e6 are under attack, and white wins the game immediately. So something to be aware of in your game. So Carlsen chooses to simplify with bishop into b3, queen b3 was played, and rook b8. A very interesting move. Always here, a lot of time I see move b6 is played, which is usually a very bad move. It weakens the c6 square, while more importantly, almost trapping the bishop on c5, because if you see, the bishop has no retreat right now. Cannot go back this direction, cannot go back this direction. And lot of times I see these pieces being trapped. Let us say white can play a move like queen c2, and if black is not careful, the bishop is simply trapped. Something to be aware in this position. We also need to avoid exit squares for our pieces. So bishop b3, queen b3, and the rook b8. So this is good move also, and we suggest the move b5 at some time, fighting for some space on the queen side while leaving the b6 square in case the bishop needs a retreat. Knight c4 was played and queen d7, a very important step, connecting the rooks. This is what I keep telling my students, that the first stage of the development is over when the rooks are connected. The last square, the last rank is guarded, and then the next stage of the development or middle game starts, right, with bishop e3, and Carlsen continues with e5. Knight retreats, bishop into e3, f into e3, and knight e7. Again, a very typical maneuver Carlsen has used in many of his games. Knight has the possibility to go here. The pawn has the possibility to advance, and black has a general plan of advance on the queen side if it is feasible, gaining space on the queen side. Yudin continues with an h4, and Carlsen plays a very tricky move, queen to g4. Now, of course, uh, the knight can retreat, and white's position is still quite okay. And Carlsen has noticed certain weaknesses in the position, lot of unsupported pieces, and hoping for the mistake which his opponent made. So Yudin played a very careless move, knight f5. Carlsen immediately jumped on the knight f5, rook into f5, and the move queen e2. Suddenly, the black queen enters the heart of the white's position, and everything is under attack. The knight d2 is hanging, the pawn on d3 is hanging, and the pawn on e3 is hanging. So after a one careless move from white, his whole position is falling apart. Yudin played queen c2, and after a very straightforward knight g4 had to resign because now white is faced with the huge loss of material. So let us say h3 is played, then knight can come to e3, and queen is under attack, and the checkmate is threatened. White can try to play queen d1, and there are multiple possibilities. Queen can take d1, and then black can follow it up with knight e3, winning an exchange, and a pawn which is winning material, or even queen e3 check. King f1, then nh2 is checkmate, or if king goes to h1, black can try this nice move nf2. Here, white has to take the knight because otherwise we have simply black winning the queen. Okay, so in any case, black is winning a huge amount of material, and at this point, you didn't resign the game. So a very simple game, but still a very instructive one. And that one inaccuracy by white, allowing the black queen into the heart of the white position, was almost the end of the game. And Carlsen saw this opportunity, and at this position, yeah, there's also something to learn that okay, now white has just played an h4, so basically you are expecting white to play his natural move nf5. So what happens? You didn't missed this step where basically you have to think on your own at every move. You cannot carry over the thinking of the last move to this move because the position has changed. If Yudin was prudent enough, he would have retreated the knight, and still it is a playable position. But he continued with the plan, even though position has changed, and had to pay the price almost immediately, allowing the black queen into the heart of the position. So I hope found this game useful. How one of the most important lessons I drew from this game is that not to carry over the thinking from the last move to this move, which was the mistake you didn't committed in this game. Okay, I hope you found it interesting, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much, and take care.